Adam from Stockwell Safety here. In the previous video, I went through how I would pull information together from the scenario to form a structure that I can now use to craft an answer that I would be happy to submit. In order to be as succinct as possible, what I'm going to do is batch my pieces of information together so that I don't have to keep repeating myself. For example, there are several bits of information from the scenario that I think are or could indicate a breach of subsection 2C of the Health and Safety at Work Act, which is the duty to provide information, training, instruction and supervision. To avoid having to repeat that, what I want to do is just say it once and then list all the examples of that particular breach. So you can see that this is my actual answer. And in terms of that breach I just mentioned, a breach of the duty to provide adequate supervision, there's lots of examples of rule breaking witnessed, walkways being blocked by stacked goods, forklift truck drivers using mobile phones while driving, and management are reported as being hardly ever seen in the workplace, in the warehouse. So rather than having to keep pointing out the breach of subsection 2C, I've said it once here and then I've listed out my justification for why I think that subsection is being breached underneath. What I've also done is pointed out what I think is a breach of the general duty to ensure the health, safety and welfare of employees. And most importantly, I've explained why I'm of the opinion that it's a breach. So for example, the employer is likely to be breaching their general duty to ensure the health, safety and welfare of employees, and then that is indicated by the frequent collisions and near misses involving forklift trucks and the fact that there have been many injuries recorded over the years. And I can't really emphasize that enough. It's no good just saying what piece of legislation you think has been breached. You've got to back that up with what information from the scenario leads you to that conclusion. That's where the points are. You're not going to get any credit for simply writing out the Health and Safety at Work Act onto your exam answer and saying that this is the legislation that you think has been breached. You've got to explain why you think it's been breached. Why are you of that opinion? And this is where you can use information from the scenario to sort of back up and provide evidence for why you think it's been a breach. And so you'll see the same sort of pattern repeated really across the entire answer. So I've identified likely breaches of duty to provide safe systems of work, and then information from the scenario to back that up, provide adequate supervision, and then information from the scenario to back that up, maintain a safe place of work, information from the scenario to back that up, maintain a safe working environment, and then information from the scenario to back that up, have arrangements in place for health and safety, and then there's a couple of bits of information from the scenario, have a health and safety policy in place, and information from the scenario, and they are not consulting with safety representatives, and then information from the scenario to back that up. And all that came really from this initial structure, which in turn came from just basically trawling through the information in the scenario and picking out bits that I think would be pointing to likely breaches. And what I've done as well is try to be as economical as possible with my language. So I don't want to keep saying pointing out that I think this is a breach or I think that is a breach. I'm going to say that once. So I have identified likely breaches of duty to, and then I can just simply go on and state the legal duties without having to use the same words over and over again. Because if I do a quick word count check, this already comes to, so this is just copied and pasted from my document, and it already comes to 305 words. So with a question like this that's worth 10 points, what you want to be doing is aiming to write no more than 330 words, which is basically 300 words with that 10% leeway added on. So you have to be economical and succinct your language, otherwise you're just going to end up going way past the word count, and you risk writing stuff for which you're not going to get any points. I'd recommend practicing this type of exam question by scanning the news sources for health and safety cases, and then seeing if you can form your own opinions about what likely breaches there have been, and most importantly, your justifications for why you think there's been particular breaches. So a good news source for this is the Health and Safety Practitioner website. And what you can do when you land on this website, if you go to In Court, you've basically got 294 pages full of cases where what you can do is you sort of select one: garage sentenced after mechanic suffers life-changing injuries in a fall. What you can do is don't start scrolling down yet, just read through the scenario. An employee of GP Motors Works, Isle of Wight, fell into a vehicle inspection pit and fell more than 5 feet while carrying out mechanical repairs to a nearby vehicle. The vehicle inspection pit was partially covered with a small vehicle, leaving around 7 feet of the pit uncovered and without any other measures in place to prevent exposing employees to unnecessary fall risk. And so you can start to have a think about what pieces of legislation could have been breached there. You might be thinking, for example, Regulation 3 of the Management of Health and Safety at Work regs, which is the legal duty to have a risk assessment in place. Or you could be thinking more along the lines of the Health and Safety at Work Act, because they haven't got a safe system of work in place. And all these articles tend to be written in the same way, is the first paragraph or two will actually give you some brief details about what happened, and then in the final paragraph or two it will actually state there what they pled guilty to, or what they were charged with. So if we scroll down a bit, we'll be able to see pleaded guilty to section 2 of the Health and Safety at Work Act. Speaking after the hearing, HSE Inspector Kate Clark said serious injuries or death can be prevented if basic safeguards such as barriers or pits or pit covers are put in place. There's clear guidance for garages about vehicle inspection pits. So basically a lack of a safe system of work led to that incident. And what you can do, like I say, you can go through literally hundreds of these cases are available. Read the scenario first, and then practice thinking to yourself what pieces of legislation could be applicable, and then practice writing down why you think that's been a breach. And this is I know I keep repeating myself about always having to justify why you think a certain way, why are you of a certain opinion. And the reason I keep repeating myself is because it's so important, but it's also something that's not natural. People often say that when it comes to answering questions and writing things down, they find it challenging because in their mind they know what they want to say, but when it comes to actually writing it, it can get very difficult to actually put into words and sentences and paragraphs what it is that you intuitively know in your mind. That's why writing is such a valuable skill, because it forces you to think. So you can have thoughts flying around in your head, and it's not until you're actually having to commit those thoughts to paper that you're kind of forced to really clarify what it is that you think and why it is that you think that. If your thought just remains in your head, you never really have to do that. Like with a lot of things, it's a skill that you're going to have to probably practice quite a bit, because I don't think for many people it's an innate skill that they've already got. It's something that you're going to have to develop. So I hope this video and the one before it has been useful. If you've got your exam coming up soon, very best of luck with it. I hope you've got some value out of the video that you've just seen. If so, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel so that you can be alerted to when we produce and upload more videos.